Yeah, so just a little recap why you're here, what session you've come to today, and obviously what Veronica's getting ready for.
So Veronica's got a fight November 16th, Madison Square Garden. So we're right in the middle of training camp for that. We had a good couple of months in New York at Henzo's, just kind of doing a pre-camp, and then we've come back here to get the hard sparring sessions and stuff before we head back to New York. So these are our 2 weeks at GB Top Team. We always come down here to get the sparring sessions in. The sessions are lively, there's loads of good bodies. So we come down for Monday evening, then we stay till Thursday morning. We do the same next week, and then we fly out to New York. And you know, all the sessions here are good, so much knowledge and talent on the mat. So we always add this into the training camp.
When you're in training camp, do you like to bounce around quite a lot, just get different looks and sort of different insight into it?
I do. I mean, you know, the thing is, there's a lot of really good people in the UK that are well respected, have got great knowledge. We're at Renegade quite a lot as well, just kind of because it's easy to get to from the house. You know, it takes us an hour to get there. So we're there, you know, Monday, Wednesdays and Saturdays for sparring and cage wrestling work. But whenever we're right in the middle of the intense part of training camp, GB Top Team's the place to come, just because it gives that kind of that fight day anxiety for her, you know what I mean? Like Renegade, there's good people there, but the intensity here on the mat for her, with some of the smaller, faster bodies, it changes the level that she competes at. So I like to put her in an area, in a situation, in a gym where she feels like she's got to fight for everything. That's this place.
How important is that just before a fight, just sort of raising the nerves, if you like, before you go into a training session and sort of increasing that intensity?
We were actually talking about, we went out for a wander last night, and we like to talk about this kind of stuff a lot. And you know, I always think about it like this, right? If I wake up on a rest day, I'm super chill. If I wake up on a sparring day, my heart rate's up 30 beats extra. If I wake up on fight day, it's up 60 beats extra. What I don't want to do is to go from being chill and feeling comfortable to fight day, where all of a sudden it feels like I've been thrown into a fire. I want to feel that get a little bit warmer through training camp. So that intensity where we can go into Renegade, come in here, going over to Henzo's, there's great people on the mats there as well. Each one of those different gyms, it gives you that new feeling of anxiety every time you go in. So like if we come to one gym and we spend the full training camp here, the anxiety peaks and then it kind of peters off. Whereas by moving around and, you know, throwing yourself into an intense place for 2 weeks, it spikes that anxiety and forces us to deal with it better.
With that, is it important to slowly build that sort of intensity, or are you going sort of hot and cold throughout the camp and sort of using that contrast?
Hot and cold, yeah, hot and cold. Because we do have days where we know it's going to be a chill day, we're going to be technical today, or we've got like an S&C session, then we'll do like a nice technical boxing session. So I know those days there's minimal anxiety. But in those days we'll watch some fights, we'll talk about the fight every day, of course. But there's nothing like waking up on a sparring day and knowing you've got to get the big gloves on, get the small gloves on, get the grease on, and then someone's going to be trying to catch you. It's a different level of intensity, and I don't like it to be just kind of sporadic through camp. I like her to know when it is, so she can prepare herself for it. Because obviously we know the date of the fight, but you know, it's just important to make sure we keep dropping that anxiety and that anxious feeling before training, just to make it a bit more familiar, right? Because ultimately, the energy that you burn from anxiety, it doesn't need to be burned. We don't burn it on rest days, so we don't need to burn it on fight day if we can keep control of that. We're going to burn some, obviously, our heart rate's going to be up and we're going to feel the tension, but we can manage it better and we can lessen the impact on our physicality if we're a bit more familiar with it.
Last one, Dan. I can't speak to you without getting your thoughts on probably the craziest fight I've ever seen in my life, to be perfectly honest. Dean Garnett, McGrillen. Take me through that one from your perspective.
It was wild. I mean, the thing is, and huge respect to McGrillen, well, huge respect to both of them. First of all, for Dean for taking the fight short notice, because that was his third opponent. Initially, Dean was matched up against Kershed, who was last year's champ. He got injured, he was replaced by Federico, an Italian fighter, very tough guy. He fell out with an injury, and like, you know, it's so difficult when you're a fighter, things constantly changing around, but a veteran like Dean, just like, whoever, I want to be in this tournament. McGrillen was desperate to fight as well. And it almost felt like a changing of the guard, and I don't want to say that because I don't want to feel like Dean's done, because Dean's going to come back, and I think we're going to get a great rematch in that fight. But what I will say is that McGrillen was able to rise to the occasion in a way that I don't think Dean expected him to. You know, we've seen photographs of Dean on the mats training for fights, and McGrillen's there training with him as a young boy. You know what I mean? And it was like, I think in Dean's head, he thought to himself that he was still a few steps ahead of McGrillen. Whereas McGrillen's grown into a powerful bantamweight in the last year or so, and we know what he's like with that left hand. And you know, if you watch his last couple of fights in particular, the variance of him landing that left hand's beautiful. But at the same time, you're never going to have an easy fight against Dean Garnett.